Hello, Tide fans. Welcome to Tide Talk. I'm your host, Sean Taylor. In the studio with my buddy Jimmy Messick and got Maurice Booth down in Margaritaville in Panama City Beach joining us on Zoom. Hello, Mo.
What's up, Mo?
Hola. Hola, how are you?
It was good seeing you this past weekend, Mo.
Good seeing y'all. Welcome to the Gulf Coast.
That's right.
We're still here.
So, listen, a good win on the road, SEC. First road win, a good win. A lot of things positive. Still some things we need to clean up, I believe, but some very positive stuff. I'm gonna start with you this time, Jimmy.
All right.
Just your kind of recap of what you thought about the game and how you felt about the win.
Sure. So first off, let me just say this real quick. I'm in pink today because October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Absolutely, it is.
And I just want to give a shout out. I actually have a very dear friend of mine of about 20 years that is a breast cancer survivor. And so I just want to just give a shout out to all the ladies out there that are in that battle right now currently. The ones that have won that battle. Y'all just keep doing y'all's thing, keep fighting, ladies, and just keep your hope up and your faith up. And
good stuff.
And anyway, I just want to give a shout out.
Good stuff from Tide Talk.
So anyway,
hey, Jimmy.
So the game, I think what was it last week or week before we were giving out grades or kind of keeping in that theme. I would give us overall maybe a B- to a C+ because I'm like you. I saw some good things, still some things that just you sit there and you kind of scratch your head about on both sides of the ball. I mean, I thought when the game started, man, the defense was flying around like, oh my gosh, man, if this defense plays like this today, they're not even going, they're not going to even come close to score.
Right.
Offense, when we saw how they started, I'm like, man, what are we doing? So, so again, once, of course, we offense turned it around finally. The defense gave up a couple of those drives that was like, man, what's going on? Why are they just gashing us? But like I say, overall, again, I would give us a B-. Man, our kicker, oh my gosh, what did he have? Was he 5 for 4? 4 for 4, 5 for 5, whatever he was. Hunter, I thought did a great job. I think I gave y'all some stats there, and I feel like, man, we got probably the best punter and kicker combo in the country at the moment.
Which will end up being important.
Yeah, and so they've been a bright spot all year. Like I say, offense, man. Again, man, we're quarterback still. I mean, he did some good things. I mean, he probably played his best game, honestly, if I had to guess or if I had to say that. But still, a lot of things to improve on from him, the offensive line. But I'd give it a B-.
B-. Maurice?
Oh, it's my turn now?
Yes, it's your turn.
I thought it turned into the Jimmy Messick show there for a little bit.
I
thought it was I think we're showing signs of improvement. I think this team is finding its identity. The one thing that does concern me is we're going to Kyle Field this Saturday.
Yeah.
There's going to be about 101, 102,000, if I'm not mistaken. I know the cowbells are loud, but it's going to be loud at Kyle Field. We got a little distracted there in the first half with some missed assignments and, of course, the snap. Overall, I thought Jalen showed a lot of progress, especially in 2 occasions where he bought some time and his eyes were downfield and he kept the play alive. Now, there's sometimes where it's like you're trying to keep it alive too long, get rid of it, and he didn't. But I like the fact that his eyes were downfield. I thought our offensive line, especially run blocking, really imposed themselves in the defense. Is continuing to improve as our national rankings have improved in the past 2 weeks. So I think we're taking a step in the right direction. We're not there yet, but we're taking steps in the right direction.
Ultimately, I think we all agree there's some positives. As and I've said it over and over again, as spoiled Alabama fans, there's still some things to improve on. But at the end of the day, big road win in a loud environment. I think that took some adjustment. The thing I was most pleased with is that we did adjust and the noise became a non-factor. It'd be different.
Took them out.
It'd be different if we continued to struggle with the noise, but we made an adjustment. It became a non-factor, and we did some things really positively. Defensively, I agree, Jimmy, with you. I was thinking, man, this defense looks like some familiar Alabama defenses in the past. Yes, we gave up, some plays here and there, but you got to also look at, we're missing the signal caller. You're missing Deontay Lawson. I really thought Marshall and Campbell did a really good job, and Blackshire is doing a really good job in some spots. So, I was pleased with the performance as a whole. Yes, there are some things to clean up, but at the end of the day, Maurice, like you said, I think we are beginning to find our identity. I don't know that we found it yet, but we are starting to find an identity. Jalen Milroe, to me, looked as comfortable as I've seen him look in 2 years. Some of the times that he pulled the ball down and ran it, it was like, that's exactly what you should have done. And then there were some times, to your statement, Maurice, that he's moving in the pocket, looking downfield, buying time, and still throwing a good pass. The guy was 10 for 12. And even though he didn't have to throw it a lot, 10 for 12's pretty good efficiency. And so I think that it was very positive on the road. It could have been worse. So I think we're on the right track. Yes, this coming weekend will be a bigger test because it will be louder. It'll be more people. And Texas A&M, I think,
better football team.
A better football team. I think Texas A&M's a better football team. So certainly some positives, but I have to say, we haven't talked a lot about Reichard and Burnham. But man, when the offense sputters in years past, we'd be all in here talking, and Sheriff Taylor would be ready to hang himself because we were very unsure in the kicking game. But now it's almost a guaranteed 3 points. It don't matter where it's from. And so that brings some confidence, at least, because you can get some points. If you do struggle, if you do have a penalty, or if you do, you don't execute on a particular play or what have you. So that's positive. And Burnham, man, you can't say enough about that. Now I'm gonna give you a chance to talk. Hang on a second. At the end of the day,
you're giving me a hard time about talking.
Maurice,
I'm just looking. Go ahead. What?
Whose show is it?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. It's Ty talking.
That's why I got my hand raised. I could just
Anyway,
interrupt.
the point being,
Go ahead.
those guys we hadn't said a lot about, but they need some attention because they're doing a really, really good job. And so, Maurice, now that you've raised your hand, I'll call on you.
Well, you are in education. Which noise is worse, cowbells or Nick Saban in your ear hole? So I'd rather. I'd rather hear the cowbells.
Yeah, it was clear that getting in, and of course Nick Saban said, because Miss Terry told him to. Maybe it was effective. We've all been talking, and I think everybody's been talking. Even the sports writers and the commentators are saying they hadn't really seen Nick Saban, have a fit, but he had a couple of them Saturday.
Yeah,
and it was effective.
A couple of things. How refreshing was it to see that out of him finally? Dude, he was in some drills finally. I love to see that. Second thing, talking about Milroe, I'm gonna back up and talk about him again. Was I the only one that thought that when he pulled the ball down to run, that he finally looked like he was kind of running with a purpose?
Oh, yeah.
The games
where I was going with
prior,
that.
the games prior, it's almost like he would get out of the pocket, not sure if he wanted to run, not sure. Then he would decide to run, but just kind of tippy-toe towards the sideline and not really get, he looked like he ran with some purpose finally on Saturday. Obviously, the first touchdown, 53 yards, outran everybody. That's what the potential he has.
Yes.
That's what we need from him moving forward. Again, especially coming up this weekend.
Well, if you listen to the coach from Mississippi State, Arnett, I believe, he was like, this guy is tough to plan for, tough to stop. when you have those designed runs and when he does pull it down, and then I think he added the element, Maurice, you mentioned it. He added the element of moving in the pocket,
Yeah.
still looking to pass, and that creates pressure on a cornerback who isn't sure, if he's going to take off running. And a guy that runs a 4.40, you can't wait too long to come up and get him. So I agree, Maurice. I mean, he looked like he was much more comfortable in what we were trying to do, and he was much more confident in his skin and in that environment.
Well,
Maurice?
even if you're a spy, which every team's going to have a spy on him, spy can't commit. The spy has to stay behind unless your name is Rashaan Evans and you're that fast to
Right.
track him down. You cannot commit. You have to cat and mouse a guy like Milroe. When he does roll out, you still have to stay back. You can't commit. So that buys him a little bit more time. And I think, to your point, Sean, is the fact that he's read or he's reading the defense now to where he sees that if it's cleared based on what the backer does or whatever coverage they're in, which he's going to take off if they're blitzing and they're man to man, because then it's wide open and really nobody can catch up to him. I think he's a lot more comfortable. I think he's more comfortable than Tommy Reese is from facial expressions. I'm just going to say.
Agreed.
So yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm not saying he's there because Lord knows we don't know what we're going to see in College Station because it is intimidating.
Yeah. All right. So that's a good time to take a break. We'll come back and talk because I got a couple of questions about some guys that I didn't really see a lot of on Saturday. But let's take a quick break. Hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Beam wins it on a last-second kickoff return, and it's all thanks to the Big G. He's only about a foot tall, and he's not great at catching since he doesn't have any arms. But boy, when he does, he's end-to-end in a blink thanks to that 1 gig speed that makes him so special. You can tell his teammates just love playing with him. Maybe a little too much. Gig speed from Beam, made for football, available everywhere.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. So, did anybody notice? Did you see much of Jermaine Burton? I didn't see Jermaine Burton a lot on Saturday. I didn't. I don't know if he was like in the doghouse or did anybody hear anything about that? Or
I'm glad you asked.
Okay, that's what I do. That's what
I
I
had a
do.
buddy of mine call me yesterday, asked me the same question. Felt like I'd be in the know. And I thought I was. I thought I actually read something last week where he got dinged or something, and he was not going to say questionable, but wasn't going to use him if we didn't have to use him. And then I was reading through some stuff yesterday and I actually saw a guy basically reporting that said that it wasn't anything to do disciplinary wise, that he was possibly banged up or dinged up. And so they just didn't play him because they didn't really have to. And that was what I read and that's what I saw.
But what we did see was what we had kind of heard was Nabla. And, the kind of mismatch of him being a bigger target, long, length, and can come from different spots in the formation.
Man, I hope that we're still kind of holding something back as far as with him. Because man, he when he's on the field, I think he's the best player out there. Man, he is so good. He's so athletic, and he's not a Brock Bowers type, but man, but he's just good, but he's in a different way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to create those mismatches that he creates, and I'm hoping we just hadn't shown a lot of that. Now, again, we've gotten the ball to him a couple of times a game, but man, he ought to be catching the ball 5 or 6 times a game, if you ask me.
Well, Maurice, I mean, we talked a little bit this year about our receivers tend to be doing some things a little bit better. I still don't know that we found that guy when we have to have a 3rd and 7, 8, 9. I don't know that we found that guy because we've used several this year. I saw Malik Benson get a couple of looks this past weekend, but I have not seen a lot of Kobe Prentice. which we did see some earlier in the year. You know, we didn't see a lot of Burton. We didn't see a lot of Isaiah Bond. He was on the field, but he didn't get targeted. You know, after the Ole Miss game, everybody's talking about Jalen Hale, but
Right.
didn't see him get targeted, but maybe once.
Well, we only threw it 12 times, right?
You know, so yeah, that's right. I
Nobody
don't
really got
disagree.
targeted. Nobody really got
But,
targeted.
but you know, why is that? Was it back what we've said before? Our guys aren't getting open. They're not creating separation. Was it simply we were holding a little bit back from an offensive scheme perspective?
I mean, I don't know how many times we dropped back to pass as far as the play call is concerned. I know Milrow got out of the pocket on a couple of scrambles, but did we drop back to pass it more than 15 times, maybe 16
look like
times? I mean, honestly, I like the fact that we're spreading the love around a little bit.
Yeah,
I think they all can make plays, regardless of who's out there. I mean, we're that talented. And I think I even mentioned that going into the season. Now, granted, we are still waiting for that one guy, but honestly, I think Burton's maybe kind of become that guy, even though he didn't play this past week. But I like the fact that, I mean, we can go to any of
spread the
them.
wealth.
Right now, like I say again, we talked about hadn't been any drops, knock on wood still. They're all making big plays. I mean, it seems like every one of them has caught just a pass in a lot of traffic. So I like the fact that we're spreading it around a little bit.
Maurice, what's your thoughts on that?
I think it's Saban telling Reese, we're going to run the ball. I think that's what you saw. And I'm not saying that we're not going to throw, because A&M is highly ranked in pass defense, well ahead of us. If I'm not mistaken, they're probably tops in the conference, if not second. But I think it's Saban going kind of like we all thought, we're going to play defense, and with these big uglies up front, averaging about 350, we're going to pound the ball. And I saw from Chase that that desire. Give me the ball. I'm running it, and I'm going to impose our will on this team.
Yeah,
I'm not stopping. And so I love seeing it. Yeah, it's not going to make a highlight reel when you pick up 5 to 7 hard yards and then get up and want the ball again, but it's effective, and we were able to do it. So I think you're going to start seeing a little bit more of that. And I'm kind of like Jimmy. I would love to have a John Mechie and a Jamison Williams. Love to. Unfortunately, I think it's just a receiving core as needed, and they're all starting to step up to say, give me the ball. I want the ball. Ball's in the air, ball's mine. That type of mentality. I think they're getting there. I'm not saying that we're there, because I don't want to get ahead of ourselves against A&M, but it's starting to show.
Yeah, and I think the combo of McClellan and Williams has been effective the past few games. I mean, listen, I agree. Maurice, Jace McClellan seems to be running with an attitude.
Yes.
He seems to be running to prove something. Like, give me the ball. I want it 20 times, and let's see what happens if I get it 20 times. And I think
Go ahead.
I think Roydell Williams is a great compliment to Jace McClellan, and you don't really lose much.
I don't think we lose anything.
When you have
I think
him in
they're
there.
both running with a purpose. So I don't think we miss anything, depending on which one's in there, in my opinion.
And keep an eye on that freshman Haynes from Buford, Georgia.
I was gonna talk about that. Man, he only got a few touches, but it appeared to me that he was trying to prove a point.
You want to tackle him, you're making a business decision.
Hey, I mean, I read he's a freshman, but some people are saying that he's the best we got.
Yeah.
If he was there every play, every down, I don't think we wouldn't be noticing that he was a freshman, is what I've been reading. And he's legit.
Well, when you watched him Saturday, the few times that he touched, the first time he touched it was a really, really good run. Now, I think it was for 8 or so yards, but the mobility, and the guy tried to kind of go low and tackle him, and he kept his balance and picked up 4 more yards. And I'm like, this guy is trying to say, hey, give me some more touches. And of course, you love that, in a number 3 guy, because you do start to see, okay, maybe he, should get some more touches. Maybe he does deserve some more time. But man, I tell you, I really like his mentality when he gets the ball. And I've heard similar things, that he don't look like a freshman, he don't play like a freshman, he don't act like a freshman. So I'm interested to see him get some more carries, throughout the year, and see what happens. I did notice several times Pritchett and Proctor rotating. We've talked about that leading up to, the last couple of games, and I believe Pritchett's earned some opportunity to get some snaps, and I think he's done a pretty good job. I think the difference is, I think Pritchett may be a little bit better pass blocker, and Proctor's just so big, he leans on people, so he's more effective in the run game. Maurice, do you agree, or do you think anything differently about that, or is he just trying to figure out who the best guy is, or just giving them some reps?
No, I think, there's nothing you can do in practice that is close to game simulation. I mean, you can just try, but it's not going to be the same as being in a game. So I think there's a lot of rotation. But I thought Pritchett played really well. I think, again, that they too are improving a heck of a lot better. Pass protection, it was great the other night. The problem, as we were just talking about, I thought Milroe had plenty of time most of the time. So then why weren't some receivers getting open? Because at that point, it's on the receiver to help the quarterback to get open. And I thought the protection was well beyond good enough to be able for him to make a decision, and whether or not they were open or not. But Milroe had time. The fact that in the fourth quarter, literally blowing them off the ball, was something that we hadn't seen in a couple of years, and it was welcome sight.
So, well, I was just going to ask you what you thought about our center.
Man, our center. Oh my gosh, man, what is going on? I don't remember him being this bad last year.
And the guy's not new to the.
No, I mean, I don't remember him being this bad last year. I was reading that maybe he was, we just didn't think about it or realize it in the moment. But man, he's got to get better.
That's not something that you missed it.
No, he's got to get better. Again, is that the best we got? I don't know.
Well, Dalcourt,
right,
was the starter.
That's right, and lost it 2 sets.
But I think to strengthen the O-line, moving him to guard, and I don't recall Seth having these issues when he was snapping last year.
Right.
Even in the playoff game, I mean, the bowl games, and I mean, I don't recall that. Yeah. It's been so noticeable that everybody's talking about it.
Yeah. And speaking of strengthening the offensive line, Booker didn't play against South Florida. And that's easily the worst game we've had offensively, right? He's been back the last 2 games. We've looked better.
Right.
We've been more efficient in the run game, more consistent. So, man, I think he's probably the best one of all of them across the line. So, I'm glad to see him back. Hopefully he can stay healthy. But yeah, man, Seth, I don't know, dude.
I mean, clearly it's been an issue because,
man, it's bad.
Saban has made, some statements.
And somebody was saying too, but how do you get? I mean, is it just the yips? Is it? I mean, how do you? I don't know, because it's
well, it affects everything.
It's several times a game.
It affects everything. If you're play action, if you're zone reading, it affects everything. The timing, so it starts with the snap. You got to have a good snap to be able. And I agree 100%. With Nick Saban, if you're having to adjust your eyes to the ball constantly, then you can't focus on your read. And we used to talk about it all the time. When I was the OC, we really didn't care, and this is a different level, but we really didn't care how effective the guy was blocking, as long as he could get a good snap off. Because if you couldn't get a good snap off, you couldn't do anything. And you know, again, zone reads, the quarterback's supposed to be able to catch the ball really without watching it all the way into his hands, because he's already looking for his read. If it's play action, you know, all of those things. And so it's a matter of importance, clearly, because it's being discussed. So hopefully we'll see some improvement
I don't know.
there. It wasn't as bad last weekend. The one that was the most obvious is when Milroe was looking to the sideline. I think that's just a communication thing. The snap itself was good. It hit him right in the chest, but the bad snaps has got to be fixed for sure.
That is a positive.
Huh?
That is a positive. The snap that he wasn't looking at.
That's right. That's right. That's a good way to spin it. Silver lining. All right, so we're going to take another quick break. We'll come back for the last segment. Hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Beam wins it on a last-second kickoff return, and it's all thanks to the Big G. He's only about a foot tall, and he's not great at catching since he doesn't have any arms. But boy, when he does, he's end-to-end in a blink thanks to that 1 gig speed that makes him so special. You can tell his teammates just love playing with him. Maybe a little too much. Gig speed from Beam, made for football, available everywhere.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. Jimmy, at the break, you were just saying we hadn't really talked about the defense a whole lot, and the defense really kind of kept us in, games for the most part. And I know you're going to say it, but I don't want to pat myself on the back.
Right.
But how good is Caleb Downs? I mean,
He's as good as I said he was going to be.
right? That's exactly. You know what? Now that I remember you saying that, yeah, you're right. Jimmy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was so freshman of the week again. I think that's the second time in 4 or 5 games, whatever we played, that he's been he's received that honor. Yeah, man, what can you say? I mean, he is a stud. He's the next one in line.
Maurice, can you tell you what I like about Caleb Downs? And I know you're just down.
Is he a freshman? Yes,
Well,
I am. Tell me, Sean.
Yes, that he's a freshman, but watch him. He goes and makes a play, and he gets up and goes back to his position. You don't see a lot of beating on the chest. I mean, he goes and makes his play, and he gets back to the field, and he's getting in position. I'm not, even when he had the interception this past week, he kind of celebrated with his guys, but it wasn't a lot of, this is me type. I mean,
Right.
I like that about this guy. I've watched him every, and because I said at the beginning of the year that he was going to be really good. So I've watched him. And that's one of the things I really like about this kid is it ain't a whole lot of hoorah rah and all this stuff. It's go do your job and then go back and line up and get the next call and do it again. I really like that about that guy.
Well, there's right now, there's nothing I don't like about this entire secondary. And he gets to learn from Kool-Aid McKinstry and Malachi Moore, and Arnold too. I've always liked Arnold. I didn't see what the problem with him was last year. He got benched one time, but I love this secondary, and I put this secondary, those 4, up against anybody else in the country. And the fact that he gets to sit in meetings and learn from those guys.
Yeah, I really like the play from the transfer Jalen Key, number 6. I mean, he's played a good role. He's playing that safety alongside of Downs. I think he's doing a really good job. See him come downhill, and he's not afraid of contact. Does a pretty good job covering.
We've had a lot of really, really, really good defensive players over the last several years. Seen in the NFL. How many of them went first round or were first round draft picks? I have the secondary, of course, defensive line. Man, but that secondary, I'm telling you, I feel like it's just about as good as a unit as we've ever had. And man, how good, we talked about elite defenses. We're certainly not elite yet. We're very, very good. But man, how good would we be if we had some of those dogs across the front with the secondary we have? I mean, dude, it would be unreal.
And I think we're getting there. Has anybody noticed? Has anybody noticed the kid I mentioned in the last show, the Keenan kid, 94, I believe, might be his number. I may be wrong on that, but his last name's Keenan. Listen, I saw him a lot Saturday. So that tells me he's getting more playing time. And it also tells me that you're seeing him around the ball a lot more. But I think that defensive line is starting to get some depth. They're starting to get some confidence, with Otis up front, and I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Big or Iguibe or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Easy for you to say, huh?
right. But they're starting to come into their own, I believe, which is freeing up our linebackers. Our linebackers, I think, are playing really well. Listen, Marshall played a pretty good game Saturday. He was all around the ball. And so I think the defense is going to be the key. Clearly, we know defense wins championships, but the defense is definitely the key.
That defensive line, yes, you're right. I think we are building some depth. They're all really good defensive players. Defensive line players. They're not, again, elite like we're used to. Some of that, I think, we talked about the strength and conditioning. We're more, we started recruiting that kind of smaller, quicker kind of guy. So, I don't see that push we used to get, when we needed to, on those short yardage situations where we could just stuff people at the line of scrimmage. I don't see that, but I think we're just kind of outmanned a little bit there. But you're right. They are getting better. But again, if they were what we've been used to in the past versus what we have in the back end of that defense, man, it'd be fun to watch. For sure.
Yeah. So
I think we're starting to get some push with rushing 4. Of course, that includes Dallas Turner or Braswell, but I think we're starting to get that push from them up front and really good against the rush. So I'm happy with, and that's credit to Freddie Roach, the defensive line coach. I'm happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree, Maurice. I think we're doing a really good job up front. We hadn't really seen a whole lot of packages, to be honest. Not seeing a lot of corner blitzes. You may see one occasionally. You're not seeing a lot. We're pressing them with our 4 guys. I think Braswell's played his butt off all year. Of course, Dallas Turner is starting to come around a little bit more. Maybe he's kind of been pinpointed by some teams. Putting some extra blockers on him or what have you. Same thing Will Anderson saw. His last year. But I'm pleased with that. You talk about going back-to-back road games from Mississippi State to Texas A&M. Certainly a challenge, especially with our team being young. We have a young football team. That's the reality. So I'm looking forward to seeing the ability to sustain the intensity on the road at a hostile environment. It's going to be a great environment at Texas A&M. Maurice, what's your biggest concern going into Saturday?
Composure. I think. Hey, look, they're loaded with athletes too, the best that money can buy. Did I say that? Yep. And they did, and Nick Saban called them out on that, which is perfectly legal now, I guess. But they are good, and the environment can be intimidating, and this team has shown that they can get a little rattled. And if we go back to last year in Knoxville, it's the core of the same team. They got rattled at Neyland Stadium. So I'm hoping that this team embraces that atmosphere and uses it to their advantage. That's the main thing I'm concerned about.
Jimmy, biggest concern going into Saturday?
I think it's the matchup up front. Our offensive line, which again is getting better, we think, but has been inconsistent against their defensive line. That to me is the game. If we can control that line of scrimmage most of the time, I think we have a chance to win. But that's my biggest concern, is that our offensive line against their defensive line.
Games are won in the trenches. There's no question about that. I think that's going to be critical. If we're able to run the football and have some success early, I think it just helps Jalen Milroe and what he's able to do. But I'm interested to see that secondary that we just talked about and how good they are against their receivers. And listen, the kid that's the backup quarterback,
Johnson.
Max Johnson, man, he's good. I mean, he's
He
good,
is.
and he's got some guys to throw the football to. So I'm
Yep.
interested to see that matchup.
You know, he's not just about. I mean, he's been there.
The
He's
joke,
been, he's
that's
been a
right.
starter.
That's right.
So yeah, he may have been second team this year, but I mean, he's got a lot of experience. So you're right. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how we respond for sure.
I believe that it's hard to get every weekend to get 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids to focus, to show up with the same intensity, and especially going on the road back to back in the SEC. So I'm interested to see how our coaches handle that. I'm interested to see how the game's called. Should be a really good test. I think we're favored at 2.5. So Maurice, let's make predictions.
Starting with me.
Yes, sir.
Cool. They are actually ranked ahead of us in offense and defense in most categories, but they really haven't had a great schedule, so to speak. So I don't think they've been tested. So I think it comes down to a last second field goal by us, and we win it. I want to say 30-27.
30-27.
Whew. So that's a lot of points. So I mean, it's gonna be a dogfight, as they say. We're gonna have our hands full again with the crowd, the atmosphere. But again, I think that's second best team we'll play this year. I think Texas is still the best team we'll play. But what's left on our schedule, I think A&M is the best team that we'll see from here on out.
That's a bold statement, knowing we still got Tennessee and LSU.
I think both offenses will struggle. I don't see, I think the first team that can get to 20 points will win the game. Of course, I'm going to pick the good guys to get there first and win. I mean, look, the last couple of years have been really close. When we had elite offenses the last couple of years, and they played us tough. They beat us a couple of years ago up there. They almost beat us last year at home. So I think it's going to be extremely close. It's going to come down, I think, to a field goal or one possession. I'm thinking we're going to win it's going to be like a 20-13 type of game. Good guys.
20-13 good guys. I do believe that it's going to be all the way to the last quarter, to the last part of the last quarter. I don't have that same confidence that I've had in the past. So I'm going to say, because I believe Milroe's starting to come into his own, and I believe our defense is better than what they've seen so far. I believe we've got a better defense than what they've seen to this point. So I'm going to say 28-24, tied. And I think
we all have them covered.
I think it's going to be late. I think we're going to score late and then hold on to win. That's my prediction. Okay. So the good thing about it is what we think don't matter. It's what the guys think when they get out there. So Tide fans, we will do this again next week. We'll be right here on Channel 207. Hopefully we'll be talking about another Alabama win. And, against Texas A&M, it's going to be a good matchup. Guys, I'm sure we'll be talking during the game. We'll see you right here next week. Tide fans, roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.